Okay, so let's get into it. Here's how I use the Draft Dashboard tools to create winning lineups. The first thing I'm going to do is check the daily fantasy players that are playing today. Okay, I'm going to set the contest game slate times. In this case, it's all, so I'm going to leave it there. So now I'm going to go through each player and I'm going to check the fantasy points per game and the minutes played per game for the last 3 games for each player. It's one of the most important stats that we have because it really shows their activity level and how much they're producing, how many points they're producing. So as we go down through here, I'm looking for green lights. The more green lights, the better. They represent the best matchups, the best statistics. James Harden looks good. He's scoring a crazy amount of points and playing a ton of minutes. So we're gonna watch him, add him to our watch list. Now we're gonna keep going down, and we can be selective here because you can only play so many players. So let's pick Damian Lillard, Kyle Lowry, Carmelo Anthony. Okay, so here's a whole group of guys who their matchups all look great. They're full of green lights. They all have great scoring history and minutes logs, so we're just gonna watch all these guys. Gortat looks good, full green lights. Okay, so this is where you have to be careful. D'Angelo Russell was out, and he's just coming back to play, and you can see that through his last 3 game log that he hasn't scored any points, he hasn't played any minutes, so he's been out for at least 3 games. He's coming back to play now. He's probably gonna be rusty because he hasn't played for so long, so I'm not gonna watch him. I don't wanna play him. Okay, let's pick a few more players here, and then we're gonna move on to find some sleepers so we can get some really good value for our lineups. Okay, that's enough for now. So let's go to the sleepers page. This is where you're gonna find players who don't cost a lot of money, who are scoring a lot of points. And these players are essential to your daily fantasy lineups because they're gonna open up more money to put into the higher priced players, the studs, that are gonna produce more consistently. So in this case, we have Joakim Noah here. He just scored 41 points last game. He played 40 minutes. That's a big boost. It looks like he's the #1 center. So these are the type of players that you wanna watch and you wanna play. Okay, now we want to find some fantasy studs that we can rely on for some big scores every game. Some of these players we may have already watched from the previous tools. That's okay, we're just going to keep watching the best players. So John Wall, 54 points last game. And we've already got a lot of them added here, so that's great. Let's take a look at all the players we've watched so far. We're going to load our watch list. So this is where you manage your watched players. You can clear all of them with a click of a button if you want to. Who you're watching kind of changes day to day. That's why that's an important button. So it looks like I've watched 25 players already, and actually what I like to do a lot of times is I'll build a lineup or even a few lineups using just players from this list. So I'll have my daily fantasy lineup tool, building my lineup in one tab, and then I'll tab over and take a look at my watched players list and plug in, for example, here, Nick Young. It looks like he's got a great matchup, almost all green lights here. He's playing 29, 30 minutes, and he's scoring, on average, almost 20 points a game. He's only $4,000 to play for DraftKings. You can change the site up here if you haven't noticed that. It's just real easy. You just click on the icon, and it will change all the salaries and stats information over to that site. So getting back to your watched players page, this is where you can scroll through and see if you made any mistakes in the last 3 games log. Now when you're ready to generate a lineup using these watched players, you go ahead and you click on the lineup optimizer. It's our most popular tool, the DFS lineup optimizer. This is the tool that you can use to put together a lineup using the max salary, because you're trying to use every dollar in daily fantasy to maximize the value of your players. So this is the page that shows you your salary limit. It shows you the details of all the positions, and there's a lot of options to this page. So I'm not going to go through all of them now, but the one that I do want to show you is the used my watched players checkbox. So you click that, and now when you generate a lineup, it's going to use all the players that you just watched. So depending on how many players you watched, you may or may not get a perfect salary on your first generate, But it's no problem. You can keep generating. Just keep mashing that button. It's going to keep generating using all your watched players. You'll just want to get as close to the max salary as possible, and there's your lineup. So this is a perfect lineup using the $50,000 max salary with all great premium players. I mean, these are all players who are producing. It goes a long way over time. If you're a fantasy player that likes to play more than one lineup every day or every week, we have tools that will let you save the lineups that you like best and then export them into the daily fantasy site of your choice. So while everything's fresh in your mind, load your draft dashboard tools and start creating winning daily fantasy lineups. Good luck, everybody.